Nathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Sri Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Daya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanatha Swami Niti Namo Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namo Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Matsumo Nasti Papatma Naparadhi Chakaschana Parihare Pilajjame Kimbruve Purushottama Bhumau Skalita Padanam Bhumireva Valambanam Parijata Paradhanam Tvameva Sharanam Prabhu Adadhanastrinam Dantairidam Yache Punah Punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhojau Dilishyam Janma Janmani Rajoham Syam Bhave Bhave Hare Krishna. I welcome Rupali Mataji, Ryan, Swati Mataji, Madhav Prem Prabhu, Tarachand, Manjula. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna. And I also welcome Gopal Chandra Prabhu, Uttara Mataji, and others. So welcome all. So we'll have the chapters 17, 18, and 19 that we'll discuss today. The next part, or the next, this is called, there are two waves within this. As let me share the screen before we get started. You're able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
All right, thank you. So just to give a quick high overview of the things that we discussed so far. So we are discussing, or for the exam, we have till the 19 chapters of Nectar of Devotion. And these correspond to the eastern side, or the eastern direction of Nectar of Devotion. And they are divided into four waves, which are called Samanya Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. The Samanya Bhakti is defined in preface, introduction, and chapter 1. Then Sadhana Bhakti takes up chapters 2 through chapters 16, and we discussed that Sadhana Bhakti includes both Vaidhi and Raganuga. Vaidhi is bhakti that is followed in deference to the rules and regulations, or in deference to the orders given to us by the spiritual master. Raganuga is more spontaneous devotion of Krishna, where the impetus for performing devotional service is not the fear or the obligation. Rather, it is one is attracted to Krishna automatically, and he or she performs devotional service to Krishna. So the third wave, the first two waves were called Samanya Bhakti and Sadhana Bhakti. The third wave is called Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti is described in two chapters, which is chapter 17 and chapter 18. And Prema Bhakti, which is pure love of Godhead, is described in chapter 19. And just to give like a taste of what else is there in Nectar of Devotion. So the southern part has various types of bhavas or emotions that constitute the happiness or rasa explained in devotional service. And then that is up till this point. Then we have different kinds of primary relationships and different kinds of secondary relationships. So these are from here, these are all the secondary kind of relationships in the northern portion. This is in the southern portion, and then this whole thing is in the east, south. This is south, and this is west, and this is north. So this is chapter 51. These are the overall, but fear not. For the exam, it's only up till chapter 19. So let's get started with chapter 17, which is Bhava Bhakti, or the ecstatic love. So, so Krishnangi Mataji, for those who want to read, they can type it in the chat, and Krishnangi Mataji can just let us know who wants to read first, and so on and so forth.
Sure, Prabhu.
So if, okay. Krishnangi Mataji, you would like to call out?
Yes, Prabhu. Priyanka Mataji, please go ahead.
Okay, here, these two paragraphs.
Yes, Mataji, but I think Ishwari Radha Mataji was ahead of me, so I don't know if she wants to.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed. Yes, Prabhu.
Go ahead, Ishwari Radha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ecstatic love. By the process of executing regulated devotional service, one is actually elevated to the transcendental stage, beyond the material modes of nature. At that time, one's heart becomes illuminated like the sun. The sun is far above the planetary systems, and there is no possibility of its being covered by any kind of cloud. Similarly, when a devotee is purified like the sun, from his pure heart, there is a diffusion of ecstatic love, which is more glorious than the sunshine. Only at that time is the attachment of Krishna perfect. Spontaneously, the devotee becomes eager to serve the Lord in his ecstatic love. At this stage, the devotee is on the platform of Uttama Adhikari, perfect devotion. Such a devotee has no agitation from material affections and is interested only in the service of Radha and Krishna. Should I continue?
Please, one more paragraph.
Okay. To clarify, in the previous chapters, the symptoms of devotional service were explained along with instructions as to how we may execute devotional service with our present senses and gradually rise to the platform of ecstasy in spontaneous love. And the two kinds of devotional service, namely devotional service through regulative principles and through spontaneous love, were discussed. Within the stage of the regulative principles of devotional service, there are two divisions, namely executive and effective. This effective portion of devotional service is called bhava, or ecstasy. In this connection, there is a statement in the tantras that ecstasy is the first symptom of pure love for the personality of Godhead. And in that stage, one is sometimes found shedding tears or shivering. Not always are these symptoms manifest. but occasionally. When King Ambaris was put into difficulty by Durvasa, he began to think of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus there were some changes in his body, and tears were falling from his eyes. These symptoms are activities of ecstasy. They are visible in the shivering of the body and the shedding of tears. After the outward appearance of these ecstatic symptoms, they stay within the mind, and continuation of the ecstasy is called samadhi. This stage of appreciation becomes the cause of future exchanges of loving affairs with Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. I'll stop sharing. I'll just briefly talk and then we can get into it. So the Bhava Bhakti is derived from when one performs a sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and when the perfection of that happens, or when it's really advanced in the process of regulative devotional service, then the stage comes as bhava. Srila Prabhupada writes there is executive and effective devotional service. Executive means something that you execute, as in, for example, chanting the names of Krishna, making garlands, sweeping the floors in the temple, cooking for the Lord, or maybe book distribution or helping with Rath Yatra. There's so many things that we can do, or probably helping for accounts in the temple and helping construction with the temple. All these are executive acts of devotion. And the result that comes out of it is bhava. Now, bhava is defined by Srila Rupa Goswami. This is Sanskrit. It's not going to come in the exam, but I'm just going to mention this just from the perspective of, just to give you a little bit of what exactly bhava means, or the definition of bhava bhakti according to Srila Rupa Goswami. With those, if you want to look up, let me actually pull up that on the screen. It's much easier so that everybody can read and follow. It's in CC 23.5. Let me pull it up. I'll share the screen first, and then we can do that. Okay, here, let's do one more thing. CC Madhya. We can, hey, we got it. And then the thing is 5. Is it very interesting? CC Madhya 23.5. Maybe it's not 5. Right? CC Madhya 23, 23.5. Not 25. My bad, my apologies. Okay. So this is the definition of Bhava Bhakti for those who want to get further. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryam Shusamya Bha Ruchibis Chittam Ashrinya Hridasau Bhava Uchyate. When devotional service is executed on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it's like a sun ray of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and one then is situated in bhava or emotion. So this is a definition of Bhava Bhakti, and we can see how Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada actually gives the same thing here, wherein it is mentioned by the fact that the Bhava Bhakti, the heart becomes soft. And the other thing is, pure love of Krishna is like a ray. It's not like sunshine, but a ray of sun that pierces through the heart. And the symptoms is, occasionally the person in bhava sheds tears, and also there is shivering. These are the two symptoms of those who are in the Bhava Bhakti. And thank you for those who joined a little later. If you want to read, please type it in, and then we'll continue further with these two paragraphs here. Yeah. Right. Yes, go ahead. I think Priyanka Mataji.
Priyanka Mataji.
Yeah, I'll start. Hare Krishna. Elevation to the stage of ecstasy can be possible in two ways. One way is by constant association with pure devotees. The other way is by special mercy of Krishna or by the mercy of a pure devotee of Krishna. Elevation to the ecstatic stage of life is generally attained through association with pure devotees, while elevation to the stage by the special mercy of Krishna or his devotee is very rare. The purport is that one should execute devotional service rigidly in the association of devotees so that there will be certainly in raising oneself to the ecstatic position. In special cases, of course, there is special favor from Krishna, and although we should always expect that, we should not sit idly and simply wait for Krishna's special mercy. The regular duties must be performed. It is just as when sometimes it is found that a person who never attended school or college may be recognized as a great scholar, or an honorary degree from great universities may be offered to him. But this does not mean that one should avoid school and expect to automatically receive an honorary degree from some university. Similarly, one should devoutly execute the regulative principles of devotional service and at the same time hope for Krishna's favor and for his devotees' favor. An example of rising to the stage of ecstatic love by executing the regulative principles of devotional service is given in the life story of Narada, which is described to Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada tells there of his previous life and how he developed to the stage of ecstatic love. He was engaged in the service of great devotees and used to hear their talks and songs. Because he had the opportunity to hear these pastimes and songs of Krishna from the mouths of pure devotees, he became very attracted within his heart. Because he had become so eager to hear these topics, he gradually developed within himself an ecstatic love for Krishna. This ecstatic love is prior to the pure love of Krishna, because in the next verse, Narada confirms that by the gradual process of hearing from the great sages, he developed love of Godhead. In that connection, Narada continues to say in the first canto, 5th chapter, verse 28 of the Bhagavatam, "First I passed my days in the association of the great sages during the rainy autumn season. Every morning and evening I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and thus my heart gradually became purified. As soon as I heard them with great attention, the influence of the modes of material ignorance and passion disappeared, and I became firmly fixed in devotional service to the Lord." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So the elevation to Bhava stage is possible by two ways. One is by the constant association of pure devotees. The other way is by the special mercy of Krishna or by the mercy of pure devotees. So there are two ways of reaching Bhava Bhakti. And Srila Rupa Goswami usually gives the enumeration, and then as the pattern that he established, he gives examples or references from scriptures to back up the statements that he's making. So after making the statement of how ecstatic devotion or Bhava Bhakti can be attained in two possible ways, he gives the example of the first type, which is by the way of constant association with pure devotees. He gives the example of Narada Muni, and as we know the story from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, of how Narada Muni was the son of a maid servant in his previous life. He was a young boy and he had no father. His mother was his only guardian. And during the 4 months of rainy season, for those who are unfamiliar with the Chaturmasya vow, during the 4 months of rainy season, the traveling mendicants would station themselves in a particular place because it would be rainy season in India, and travel would just not be possible. So they would be stationed at one place, and these sages or the Bhaktivedantas, as it is mentioned in Bhagavatam, were staying at the house of Narada Muni's mother or close by. And because the young boy was able to get access to these great sages, and as they would sing about the glories of Krishna in the morning and evening, his heart would be transformed, and how he also became it reached that level. So that's what is mentioned. So the this is one level, which is through the mercy of the pure devotees. The second stage, it is mentioned, is by mercy of Krishna, by mercy of, or by association of pure devotees. If you go back here, let's go back. So here it is mentioned. One is by the way of constant association with pure devotees. The other way is by special mercy of Krishna, or by mercy of pure devotee of Krishna. So as we go down, we can see these are the examples of a person or devotees coming to the platform of Bhava Bhakti by mercy of Krishna or his pure devotees. This is more of an honorary degree, as it is mentioned earlier, but the mercy of Krishna or his pure devotees can come in three forms. We'll discuss this. So can someone, or who's the next person, can we read this, please?
Malati Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Right.
In the Padma Purana, there is a story of a neophyte devotee who, in order to raise herself to the ecstatic platform, danced all night to invoke the Lord's grace upon her. Sometimes, however, it is found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. This sudden development of the devotional attitude in a person must be understood as a special mercy of Krishna or of his devotee. This apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through the causeless mercy of Krishna can be divided into three groups: simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes. In the Narada Purana, there is a statement about development of ecstatic love simply by speaking. Lord Krishna said to Narada, "O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that you may develop an alloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness."
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So as we mentioned, the mercy of Krishna can come in three forms. One is simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes. So we completed simply by speaking. So let's do these two paragraphs. Who's next?
Vraja.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
In
Krishna.
the Skanda Purana, there is a statement about developing ecstatic love toward Krishna simply by glancing. It is stated there, when the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the personality of Godhead Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. As far as heartfelt wishes are concerned, there is a statement in the Shuka Samhita where Narada tells Srila Vyasadeva, "You have a son who is the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead. And I can observe that without any following of the regulative principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with many of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many, many births."
Thank you. So, the story of the three ways in which one can achieve devotional service or Bhava Bhakti by mercy of Krishna is by glances, by best wishes, and that is heartfelt wishes, and also by words. So you can see these three aspects. We also know the story of how Shukadeva Goswami was born a liberated soul from the womb of his mother. In fact, the story goes that Vyasadeva, he was waiting for his son to be born, but for 16 long years, Shuka refused to come out of the womb of his mother because he was terribly afraid of this material existence that can entrap the jivas. And after assurance from Lord Krishna himself, he said, "Okay, I'll come out of the womb." And as soon as he came out of the womb of his mother, he took off to the forest, having nothing to do with this material existence. They're very exalted personalities, but nevertheless, you can see that when Shukadeva Goswami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see from where or what level they are at. So these are the examples. And then after mentioning this nature of Bhava Bhakti and the ways and means to achieve them, then the next chapter, chapter 18, Srila Rupa Goswami gives us those who are in Bhava Bhakti, what their state of mind is. So let me share the screen here. So whoever is next in line can please do all the 9 characteristics of those in ecstatic love or Bhava Bhakti.
Kripatita Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Rupa Goswami next describes the characteristics of a person who has actually developed his ecstatic love for Krishna. The characteristics are as follows. 1. He is always anxious to utilize his time in the devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always 24 hours a day without deviation. 2. He is always reserved and perseverant. 3. He is always detached from all material attraction. 4. He does not long for any material respect in return for his activities. 5. He is always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. 6. He is always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. 7. He is very much attached to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. 8. He is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. 9. He is very pleased to live in a place where the Lord's pastimes are performed. Example, Mathura, Vrindavana, or Dwarka. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. I take this opportunity to welcome all the devotees who just joined. Amresh, Momita Makaji, Ulysses, Lakshmipati, Lakshmi, Pashupati and Balaram. Yes, Prabhu, thanks all for joining. So these are the, how many characteristics are there? Those, for
9.
those 9 characteristics. One of the things is that while we aspire for Bhava Bhakti, we cannot be frustrated in devotional service if we are not yet there. For example, one of the things is that those who are on the stage of Bhava tend to utilize every moment in Krishna consciousness, and oftentimes that is the goal, and that should be the aspiration of every devotee. But there is the reality of where we are in our devotional service and where we would like to be. And often, I'm just speaking for myself, not the exalted souls in the audience. Often I'm not there. So the whole idea is that one should be determined, one should be persevering, and one should say that Krishna will give me his mercy, as it's mentioned here. And as we go deeper into the different characteristics, then we can understand as well. The goal is clear, but sometimes there could be little confusion whether I'm actually there versus I am not. So one has to have some mentors in spiritual life to ascertain and to help us. It's really an important thing. Otherwise, our mind can play many games. If I'll give a simple example. A person can be thinking of serious coding problem at work, extremely vexing problem, and that his boss has asked to solve, or her boss has asked to solve. And then otherwise, there could be serious repercussions for not solving that problem. And he or she goes to the temple, mind full of anxiety for solving the problem. But when they look at the deities, when he or she looks at the deity, then the tears flow down. Oh my God, I'm in bhava. Probably not. You might be or you might not be. I'm not denying you cannot be. But it could be also the result of your severe anxiety that can cause. So one should have some amount of mentorship to assess where one is at. It's always a good idea, at least spiritually, to have mentors who can help us guide along the post. So let's do, who is next in line can do 2 qualities: utilization of time and perseverance. I'll share the screen, of course. This one and this one, please.
Is it me in the line?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you clearly, Mataji.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Yeah. Is it me next?
Rupali Mataji, yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Utilization of time. An unalloyed devotee who has developed ecstatic love for Krishna is always engaging his words in reciting praise to the Lord. Within the mind, he is always thinking of Krishna, and with his body, he either offers obeisances by bowing down before the deity or engages in some other service. During these ecstatic activities, he sometimes sheds tears. In this way, his whole life is engaged in the service of the Lord, with not a moment wasted on any other engagement.
Thank you. And then the second one?
Perseverance. When a person is undisturbed, even in the presence of various causes of disturbance, he is called reserved and perseverant. An example of this perseverance and reservation is found in the behavior of King Parikshit, as described in the first canto, 19th chapter, verse 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam. The king says there to all the sages present before him at the time of his death, "My dear Brahmanas, you should always accept me as your surrendered servant. I have come to the bank of the Ganges just to devote my heart and soul unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So please bless me that Mother Ganges may also be pleased with me. Let the curse of the Brahmana's son fall upon me. I do not mind. I only request that at the last moment of my life, all of you will kindly chant the holy name of Vishnu so that I may realize his transcendental qualities. This example of Maharaja Parikshit's behavior, his remaining patient even at the last point of his life, his undisturbed condition of mind, is an example of reservation. This is one of the characteristics of a devotee who has developed ecstatic love for Krishna.
Thank you. So the story of Maharaj Parikshit is pretty interesting for those who are unfamiliar. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit is the grandson of Arjun. His son Abhimanyu was killed in the battlefield, but his wife Uttara, and Abhimanyu was all of 16 years old when he was killed on the battlefield. And his wife Uttara was carrying his child, and that child was Parikshit. And we know the story of how after Mahabharat war, Ashwathama, with an intention of destroying all the remaining heir to the Pandavas, released a Brahmastra. And that Brahmastra was hurling at a furious pace towards the womb of Mother Uttara, who was carrying Parikshit, and with the intention of destroying that womb. So it's mentioned that Brahmastra was so precise that it would just destroy Maharaj Parikshit within the womb without touching or causing any harm to Mother Uttara. We know the story of how Uttara runs towards Krishna for protection, and Krishna enters into the womb of Mother Uttara, and through his mystic potency covers the womb or covers the fetus of Maharaj Parikshit with his energy, and the Brahmastra cannot harm the child in any way. And Rata means protection. And one of the names of Maharaj Parikshit is called Vishnu Rata, which means that he was protected by Lord Vishnu. When Maharaj Parikshit was born, the astrologers, and there was great jubilation. And for the Pandavas, it's especially sweet because they had seen tremendous amount of destruction in the course of Mahabharat war, from Abhimanyu to Draupadi's 5 sons who were mercilessly slaughtered by Ashwathama, thinking that they were Pandavas. They had seen destruction, and Maharaj Parikshit's birth was truly just like a thrilling event for them, that they had a child in the family. And all the astrologers came. They sung glories about the greatness of Maharaj Parikshit. And it is his characteristics are enumerated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Like in charity, he will be equal to, please correct me if I am wrong, but in charity, he'll be like Shibi or Rantideva, I don't remember. And he will be as tolerant as earth. And it was a beautiful. And Maharaj Parikshit grew up. And we know the story of how he went to the forest once to hunt, and he was hungry and thirsty. And he reached the sage of Shamika. The sage was deep in meditation, and he approached the sage with the intention of getting some water and some food because he was really thirsty and hungry. And the sage was deep in meditation. He didn't observe, or he was not even aware that the king was standing at his doorstep. And in his extreme hunger and thirst, Maharaj Parikshit felt neglected and slighted because of the fact that the sage didn't even bother to receive him or give him any shred of hospitality. So Maharaj Parikshit, he saw a dead snake lying nearby, and with his bow he picked up the snake, wrapped it around the neck of the sage, and he left. And after some time, his son got to know of this act of Maharaj Parikshit. And actually, Shamik Rishi didn't feel much at all. He just took out the snake from his body and he just went about his duties. But his son Shringi, who was an immature boy, got to know of the insult to his father, and he cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die in 7 days. And the meanwhile, when Maharaj Parikshit, after putting the snake around the sage's neck, he was going back to his palace, guilt started gnawing at him. I shouldn't have done this, because the repercussions can be pretty severe. And he said, may whatever happens to me, let it happen quickly, so that I am never influenced by this bad behavior of disrespecting the sages. And when Shringi cursed him to die in 7 days, Maharaj Parikshit, actually, the attitude was amazing. He said, it's good this happened. This will help me, teach me a lesson. And please understand, Bhagavatam says he was not helpless. He was the controller of the entire planet at that point of time. He was a judge, jury, and executioner. More importantly, Bhagavatam says he was Bhagavatottama, the topmost of the Bhagavatas. And he had the power to counteract the curse by that boy. If the boy had said, I curse you to die in 7 days, Maharaj Parikshit could have said, I curse that your curse is invalid. And it would have worked. But he said, this is good. This is really good that I'm getting this punishment. And giving up the reins of his kingdom over to his son Janamejaya, he went to the bank of Ganges, and he sat in fasting. And every sage from every part of the universe came, knowing something special is about to happen, something historical is about to begin. That is the recitation of Bhagavatam. And when all the sages came, imagine in the modern context, if a loss happens like that, you are the king of this entire world, but you are condemned to die. People will first of all shut down the Facebook, Instagram, this, that, so that nobody can know the embarrassing thing and won't get any negative comments. And then they go somewhere to kind of be very quiet and not face the embarrassment and all the dejections of the world, saying, oh, you loser, why did you do this, and blah, blah, blah. But Maharaj Parikshit was very, very perseverant and determined. He said, this happens, it happens. And all the sages from every part of the world came, and they knew of his situation. And then I just wanted to add the story a little bit, give the perspective of what it means to be persevering when you are the king of the universe and condemned to die in 7 days. He was like, this is nice, oh Brahmanas, treat me as your own student, and please tell me he asked 2 questions at that point of time. He says, what is the highest duty a man can perform in general? And the second pertinent question to himself was, what are the duties of the man who's about to die? And by asking that question, Maharaj Parikshit, in essence, talked about every person who's ever walking on this planet, because ultimately everybody has to give up their body. But then Bhagavatam actually gives the foundation on how to prepare one for one's death. And so, yeah. I'll complete this particular chapter, and then we can go. I will not go through all of these. Let me share the screen. You can take time to read. I will touch upon a few of these, but I will not go through all of these now in the interest of time. We are, so the 9 qualities of those who are on Bhava Bhakti, we covered these two. Okay, so then there is detachment. That is, one is detached from material illusion. So one of the most important thing is that, detachment is, sometimes people will say, okay, I should detach myself from everything sensual and just reject it. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to remain. This is, again, I'll keep coming back to the same point. This is of a person who is in the Bhava Bhakti, who has already reached that stage. Then there is no question of material attachment. Even if there is material allurements, then they are remaining detached. So when we read this, and if a person is in the very beginning sadhana stage, neophyte stage, when you read this and try to impose artificially upon yourself, then you will be frustrated. You will think that devotional service is not for you. Why this is our goal, as I keep repeatedly mentioning, there is the goal and there is the reality, or there is the distance from where we are at the goal. And also I'll mention the goal posts a little later in the next chapter probably, but we should never lose sight of the goal, and we should never feel defeated or disgusted by our own shortcomings that are preventing us from reaching the goal now. The devotional service is a gradual process, and as we apply ourselves with all sincerity and humility, and Krishna and the devotees will be merciful, and they will give us to that stage. Pridelessness is every place. I think the first line, or wherever there is a what is called prideless, we can get this. When a devotee, in spite of possessing all the qualities of pure realization, is not proud of his position, he is called prideless. Then the great hope is that this is interesting. I will see if I can find that verse, and then this is hopefully I'll for the pleasure of the audience. Let's see if I can find that verse. Let's see if we can get that verse. That verse is an interesting verse. So here, the great hope is the strong conviction that when one will certainly receive the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called in Sanskrit Asha Bandha. Asha Bandha means to continue to think. Because I'm trying my best to follow the routine principles of devotional service, I'm sure I will go back home, back to Godhead. So this is what is called the great hope, and we should keep that great hope, Asha Bandha. And to quote this, Srila Rupa Goswami actually gives his own composition. Actually, this was written by Sanatana Goswami, and Rupa Goswami, he quotes this. This is the verse that is being used here. Na prema shravanadi bhaktir apiva yogo tava vaishnavo jnanam va shubha karma va kiyadaho sajatirapyastiva hinarthadika sadhake tvai tata yachedyamulasati Hey gopi janavallabha vyatayate ahamada shaivama ahamada shaivama ahamada shaivama. Yes, who can read the translation, please?
Mrigakshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can read. Oh my Lord, I do not have any love for you, nor am I qualified for discharging devotional service by chanting and hearing, nor do I possess the mystic power of a Vaishnava, knowledge, or pious activity, nor do I belong to a very high caste family. On the whole, I do not possess anything. Still, O beloved of the gopis, because you bestow your mercy on the most fallen, I have an unbreakable hope that is constantly in my heart. This hope is always giving me pain.
I'll clarify that before we go ahead. What does it mean? This hope is giving me pain. The pain is, it's one of the things that I'm a beggar and I'm going to the king to ask for something. And, you have that thing that Krishna, I am nobody. I have nothing. Yet I want your mercy, even though I have nothing. So, that hope is, I have that great hope, but at the same time, it's giving me pain because I shouldn't be asking you, but I have nowhere else to go. It's a feeling that will manifest when one kind of advances in devotional service, right? Okay. I'll complete these and then I'll take a break for question and answers, and then we can go for the non-genuine bhava, and I'll explain to that, what it means in a minute. I'll just do this. Okay. So we discussed pridelessness, we discussed great hope, then eagerness for achieving the desired success. This is called samutkantha, which means that I am greedy. The whole purpose, or if somehow or other one can get greed, then one can get Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada actually says everything has some value, and one has to pay the value before obtaining or possessing it. It is said in the Vedic literature that to purchase the most valuable thing, Krishna consciousness, one has to develop an eagerness for achieving the success. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes Bilava Mangal Thakur verse from Krishna Karnamrita to substantiate the Samutkanta concept that he has introduced here. So this greed or this intense desire to obtain Krishna is what is needed to purchase Krishna. And if one doesn't have it, because again, we are talking of in the stage of Bhava Bhakti, which means that you might not be in the Bhava Bhakti, wherein you might not have that greed. So the goal is to pray to Krishna to give you that greed. So, and then attachment to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord, attraction for living in a place where Krishna has his pastimes like Mathura and Vrindavan. And for those who cannot in the West, most of us are staying in the West, not in Vrindavan or Mathura. For those, it's better to at least meditate and try to mentally stay in Vrindavan. So those are the things. I'll take some questions or any reflections or any thoughts or comments before I go to the next section. Hare Krishna, delicious. Hare Krishna, go ahead. Ulysses. I cannot hear you. Maybe you're speaking, but you are unmuted as far as I could tell, but I'm unable to hear. Maybe others are able to hear. Or is it just me? Okay.
I also can't hear Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay. So we cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Sorry for that. A little hiccup. So in regard to this topic, I heard a devotee giving a lecture a few days back, and he was in the beginning of the lecture, he was saying, "I'm not a very advanced devotee, or I don't claim to be in the stage of Baba and so on. Therefore, he was saying, you should not listen to me because I'm going to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam. And we should only listen from pure devotees, he was saying. But it was a little confusing because if we were to apply that standard, then we would never discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. So I don't know if it's if we should be so strict. Like it would make no sense to be to never discuss Srimad Bhagavatam because there's no pure devotee. Like, so what is your thought upon this? What is the requirement of the speaker? Like, if I want to give a class, I have to be minimum in the stage of Bhava.
No, I mean, the answer to the second part of your question is super easy. Nope. Because bhava, as we discuss a little later, is really rare. And by that stretch of imagination, we will have a Bhagavatam class once in maybe 20, 30 years, because somehow a pure devotee has come out of his cave. He or she has decided, okay, I'll enlighten the world in Bhagavatam. And so definitely the answer is no. Again, what this devotee meant and the context, it's hard to tell, give the right answer. But devotees might downplay their own sense of devotion and present themselves as very humble. And that is mentioned, or that is also seen in Srimad, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where Rupa Goswami says, I am the most fallen person, and so on and so forth. So maybe that devotee was telling in terms of his or her humility. So, okay, we'll take that and keep it aside. But let's examine the second portion, assuming that the devotee was not speaking about, being humble, but really they have some deficiencies or defects or shortcomings, whatever, God forbid, and I pray that they be gone soon. If the catch-22 situation is, oh, I'm too sick to take medicine, this medicine will not cure me. Or I'm sick, I have nothing to lose, I'll take the medicine to cure myself. It's a catch-22 situation. If I am too fallen to read Bhagavatam, then I'm saying I'm too sick to take the medicine. Bhagavatam is given so many places that everybody can read Bhagavatam. And the best of the verses is this, and I'll present the evidence. No, you don't need to. It is second canto, first chapter, 10th verse. I think. I'm not sure. Let me look. Actually, let me present that verse so that it will become a little more easy, and then we can take it from there. Let's just duplicate and then go here. Just say SP 2/1/10, if I remember right. Nope. See, I knew I'd make a mistake. The verse is Akama Sarva Kamo. Somebody can help me take that verse. Akama Sarva Kamo Shakama Udaradi. Akama Sarva. Let's see that. Hey, okay, this is the one, 1 to 27. 2, 3, 10. Thank you. So this verse from Bhagavatam says, a person who has broad intelligence, whether he be full of material desire or without any material desire or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole. And when worship of Supreme comes, glorifying his name, fame, form, qualities are there, and they are there in Bhagavatam. So you are instructing me to take the medicine, but at the same time, if I say I'm sick to take medicine, then it's a very logical contradiction. Is that helpful? Or?
Yes, just to add a little more in the context, then he proceeded to quote the famous saying from Prabhupada that milk touched by the snake becomes poisonous. So therefore, we should not listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from anyone randomly, like non-devotee, or for money, or etc., etc. So my view has always been more inclined toward not taking it as if the for example, they say if the non-devotee chants the holy name and you hear that, then it becomes poisonous. But I don't really like that explanation, because I don't believe we can contaminate the holy name. There's no one that has the power to do that, as fallen as they could be. So it creates a confusion that it is not really the name being contaminated, but the wrong rasa of the chanter. And so there has to be some sort of filtering, because we can't also go the other way, that we can listen to anyone and it's fine. So this thin line is difficult to decide, you know. For example, one very common thing that happens in the West, in America, and like so on, there's kirtans in this very new agey groups, which is full of people that are impersonalist and like that. And many times they're even leading kirtan or the main singer and so on. And I always wonder, what is the proper attitude in those circumstances? It's not like I'm going to cover my ears and run away. So I don't know. What do you think?
So you brought up an interesting concept about polluting the name. And let me give the Sanskrit context, or where that particular thing is coming from. It is in Padma Purana. It is quoted by Sanatana Goswami. The verse there it says is Avaishnavo Mukhodgirnam Utam Harikatamritam Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpo Chishtam Yatapayaha. The meaning of that is Avaishnava Mukhodgirnam, from a person who is not a Vaishnava, coming from that mouth, Putam Harikatamritam, this nectarian description of Sri Hari, don't listen. Because, and the milk touched by the serpent example is used. So that verse specifically talks about Harikathamrita, or the pastimes of Bhagavatam. The holy name of Krishna, on the other hand, is much more easy. And Srila Prabhupada himself encouraged the Beatles and others to chant the names, so that the names in of itself cannot be polluted. But the explanation, so chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and then we can bring out many scriptural references where even Narada Muni instructed the hunter to say Mara instead of Ram, because you are so corrupt. And it became from Rama, 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 it becomes from Mara to Ram. So those are all a different set of explanation. But the problem is, when you try to explain the Lord's pastimes without being a devotee, then you misunderstand. You come to the conclusions. You can look up famous gurus, in so-called famous gurus, on the YouTube, how they say that Krishna is not God, and how they, like, this is what was told by one guru. See, Krishna was very immature when he was young. That's why he danced with the gopis and he stole, all those criminal acts of Krishna, but when he became very sober and grown up, he gave up all those things. I just banged my head. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. His stealing of butter is the same as giving Bhagavad Gita or his creation. Not knowing the nature of Krishna, when you bring up such idiotic statements, those are really misleading. So, Prabhu, that stricture stands, but the holy name cannot be corrupted. I hope that satisfies you.
Yes, just to mention, in that recording where Prabhupada is talking, I agree with you completely. The problem is in that recording that Prabhupada is giving the lecture, in his very famous recording. He specifically says the name chanted by the lips of the non-devotee. So I would love that he would have said the explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam or things like that. But because he specifically said the name, I always have a little pain in my heart, because I understand the same as you, that even if we were in the middle of the garbage dump and everybody's a drunkard and drug addict, somehow or other the holy name lifts everyone up.
Yeah, I think for the sake of time and for the sake of the fact that there are other questions, probably we can take it and we can discuss offline the specific lecture where Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that. I would be very much happy to look deeper into it and satisfy you with the proper answer.
Hariva, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Lakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I have, actually this is my first Bhakti Sastri class, so my question might be very basic, I'm not sure. And I heard as if I am hearing Krishna Katha, so please correct me if I should not do like that and I should do a deeper study of whatever you are telling, or should I hear just like enjoying the nectarian messages from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or from the senior devotees. And my question is, ecstatic love symptoms were said, right? So how it is related to surrender? So when somebody surrenders, immediately will they get the ecstatic symptoms, or it is the advanced stage of the surrender, then they will get the ecstatic love? So how it is correlated? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for the nice question. So surrender to Krishna has 6 limbs, and we will look it up. So I know what, if you want a long answer, I'll give you a long answer. The short answer is, the answer is B. When you surrender to Krishna, and the mature or the perfection of such surrender is ecstatic love for Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
And just if you want to be satisfied with a little more elaborate answer, I can give you, but we can leave it at that if you are satisfied with that answer.
Yeah, if time permits, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm okay with the answer of what I received.
So let's do. Let me share the screen, and then I'll give I'll give, how about like medium. Now I'll not give a class in the name of a answer, but at the same time I will just not be a one-line sentence. So if you can see, the Vaidhi Bhakti, or following the rules and regulations, means that you accept things that are favorable for devotional service. Like, I mean, you chant because it'll help you, and you probably give up gambling, for example. Gambling is something that definitely will not help you in your devotion. So that sort of surrender is characterized, if you really want to get into that aspect, which is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. We can look up this verse from Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse. And, Krishna says, abandon all varieties, sarva dharman parityajya verse. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Now, the question is, this is the keyword surrender. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada actually says, what is surrender? And if you can see the surrender, which are the 6 limbs of surrender, which is accepting things favorable, rejecting things unfavorable, seeing Krishna as one's protector and maintainer, and offering oneself to Krishna, so on and so forth, and being utterly humble. So when you surrender, you are still in the process of anukulya and pratikulya, which means we are at a stage of still in the sadhana bhakti, which means that we are doing things favorable and rejecting things unfavorable. So the summation or the perfection of this surrender is the ecstatic love for Krishna.
Okay. Thanks so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Rohini Dilal, and then and that's the last question for now. And then okay, Madhav Pimpo, that's it. And then we can because we have to still cover one more chapter, and then we have to a little bit about exam. So very interesting topic, the best of all topics. Good. So it'll be fast answers. Good.
Yeah, sure, bro. Bro, you were talking about the three ways that one achieves the causeless mercy, the Bhava Bhakti, right, bro? By words and by glances. Bro, I mean, the example you have given is Narada Muni. By hearing Bhaktivedantas, he came to the platform of Bhava stage. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, there was no pre-qualification for Narada Muni in that case, Prabhuji, or how do we look at it?
Yeah, he didn't have any pre-qualification. He was son of a maid servant, in fact. He was not even born in a Brahmana family. So there was zero qualification. And we read early on in the Nectar of Devotion that we discussed extensively about the prerequisites for devotional service. And Rupa Goswami says the only prerequisite is a sincere desire to have devotional service. And we discussed about how Vairagya, Varnashrama, so many other factors don't play a big role or play no role at all in one's qualifications for devotional service.
Right. So generally we get to hear from a lot of advanced devotees, senior devotees in our organization also. But yeah, so that doesn't guarantee that unless there is causeless mercy, of course, you may have to go through the different stages of Anartha Nivritti and then come to the Bhava stage as a sadhaka bhakta. So yeah, so there won't be any, generally there won't be any cases of causeless mercy, right, Prabhu? Even though you hear from a lot of advanced devotees.
The way I frame your question is, can I bypass? And, is there a case where people were not going through the usual sadhana stage and, got Bhava Bhakti through the mercy of Krishna or through pure devotee? Is that your question?
Yes, Prabhu. So even though you follow those three methods, whatever was there for attaining the causeless mercy, there is no guarantee that you will get the Bhava Bhakti causelessly, right?
It's possible. It's not like a one-way thing. Sometimes the devotee struggle is there, and Krishna might intervene. The perfection will come when Krishna gives you his mercy. And sometimes it can, because please understand, if Krishna is ultimately not giving you mercy, even though I might say, okay, I'll chant 16 rounds and Bhava Bhakti will somehow come, you might be doing it out of pride, and that pride could be an anartha in of itself. So you can see how the part of sadhana bhakti is to weed out the anarthas, as you so rightly pointed out, or the process of bhakti will itself weed out the anarthas. Then the heart will become soft for Krishna. In rare cases, in extraordinarily rare cases, Krishna will bypass it. Krishna will say, don't worry about all these things. I'll give you Bhava Bhakti right away. But as Srila Prabhupada mentions, and as we read, those cases are far and few. And one shouldn't say that, I'll go when Krishna will ask me to go to temple. Chanting, I'm not inspired to chant today, because Krishna is somehow not giving me the inspiration to chant 16 rounds. So you can see how this sort of attitude also will not help, just waiting for the mercy of Krishna. So we do our duty diligently, and we expect mercy of Krishna as well.
Yeah, bro, that's the other extreme of not doing and expecting. But while doing also, we expect some causeless mercy, because it's very difficult to get rid of all the anarthas, and it takes a lot of time. There is some hope. There is some prayer in the back of our hearts.
We should always have that prayer. We should always expect mercy of Krishna, but not get disappointed if it doesn't happen in next 20 days or something. We should keep doing our duty to Krishna, like birth after birth, and we'll see whenever Krishna wants, then we'll get it.
Yeah, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, I want to also add, the easiest way to kind of get that mercy of Krishna is to satisfy one's spiritual master. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. That's the words that's been used quite few times within our society, and people must be bored, but it's the eternal truth that if somehow one spiritual master is pleased, then Krishna will be pleased for sure. So there is that shortcut you can always rely upon.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Madhav, Prem Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So, Prabhu, my question is, we heard the story of Bharat Maharaj who was on Bhav stage and he falls down from that stage. Reading through these 9 qualities, so where does Maya enter even in the Bhav stage, and what is that quality which is lacking in Bhav stage, which is there in Prem stage, that the devotees in Prem stage won't fall down, but Bhav stage devotees can fall down?
That's an excellent question. I'm thinking, should I answer now or should I? You hold on to that thought. As we go
Yes,
ahead, then we'll discuss that.
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay. Let's continue with because Bhava stage can be a lot of confusion. So Srila Rupa Goswami has some clarifications on what seems to be Bhava but is not a Bhava. Okay, please read these 2 paragraphs. Whoever is next. Rishangi Mataji, you should let us know.
Next is Gitamrita Prabhu.
Hari Bol, Gitamrita.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. There are many so-called devotees who artificially think of Krishna's pastimes, known as Astakalya Leela. Sometimes one may artificially imitate these, pretending that Krishna is talking with him in the form of a boy. Or else one may pretend that Radharani and Krishna both have come to him and are talking with him. Such characteristics are sometimes exhibited by the imperialistic class of men, and they may captivate some innocent persons who have no knowledge in the science of devotional service. However, as soon as an experienced devotee sees all of these characters, he can immediately evaluate such rascaldom. If such a pretender is sometimes seen possessing imitative attachment to Krishna, that will not be accepted as real attachment. It may be said, however, that such attachment gives the pretender hope that he may eventually rise onto the actual platform of pure devotional service. This imitative attachment can be divided into 2 headings, namely shadow attachment and para transcendental attachment. If someone, without undergoing the regulated principles of devotional service or without being guided by a bona fide spiritual master, shows such imitative attachment, this is called shadow attachment. Sometimes it is found that a person actually attached to material enjoyment or salvation has the good fortune to associate with pure devotees while they are engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. By the good grace of the Lord, one may also cooperate and join in the chanting at that time, simply by the association.
I cannot hear Gitamrita, or nobody can hear me.
I think Gitamrita side is.
Okay,
Prabhu.
all right. Okay. It's always good to check.
He's actually muted, Prabhu.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll discuss this a little bit. And then we can, so the two types of I wouldn't use the word fake, but semblance. Let's use genuine and fake, just for the sake of the argument, though it's not the technical word fake. So the fake type of bhava is of two types. One is called the shadow, and the other is called the reflection. The shadow is more in terms of, it's a little counterintuitive. A person who is in the dham, or person who is in the temple, especially in the festivals and other times, and they see the whole atmosphere is surcharged with devotion, you also feel a tinge of some sort of attachment to Krishna. And that is called shadow. But the person who actually is having a lot of material desires in the heart, but somehow or other, by the influence of some pure devotee, or in the company of pure devotee, they get similar kind of feelings of bhava. Those are the two kinds that Srila Rupa Goswami mentions. Srila Prabhupada writes that as shadow and para. So they said there is that distinction I just wanted to add or map. And then let's discuss the question which Madhav Prem Prabhu asked. And then it's mentioned that okay, let's read these few, and then I'll discuss this. Whoever is next. While Krishangi Mataji calls out, I'll just pull the verses.
Next is Rohini Prabhu.
Go ahead. Oh.
Hare Krishna. Such shadow attachment or para attachment can develop if one associates with a pure devotee or visits holy places like Vrindavan or Mathura. And if an ordinary man develops such an attachment for Krishna, unfortunately performs devotional activities in the association of pure devotees, he can also rise to the platform of pure devotion service. The conclusion is that transcendental attachment is so powerful that if such attachment is seen manifested even in some common man by the association of a pure devotee, it can bring one to the perfectional stage. But such attachment for Krishna cannot be invoked in a person without his being sufficiently blessed by the association of pure devotees. As attachment can be invoked by the association of pure devotees, so attachment can also be extinguished by offenses committed at the lotus feet of the pure devotees. To be more clear, by the association of pure devotees, attachment for Krishna can be aroused. But if one commits offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee, one's shadow attachment or para attachment can be extinguished. This extinguishing is like the waning of the full moon, which gradually decreases and at last becomes dark. One should therefore be very careful while associating with pure devotees to guard against committing an offense at their lotus feet. Thank you.
So, so this is even at the level of bhava, there is a fall down because of the simple fact that there could be either one's own faults, even at the level of bhava, or there can be fall down because of offenses against pure devotees. So those are the two things that that are mentioned here. Then these are the questions that will answer Madhav Prem Prabhu, and whoever is next in line can read. This is the last two paragraphs of chapter 18.
I will read, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
If one can gradually advance his status in devotional service, This is understood to be due to causeless mercy of Krishna himself. If a person is completely detached from material enjoyment and has developed pure ecstatic devotion, even if he is sometimes accidentally found not living up to the standard of devotional service, one should not be envious of him. It is confirmed also in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who has unflinching faith in and devotion to the Lord, even if sometimes found to be accidentally deviated from pure devotional characteristics, should still be counted among the pure. Unflinching faith in devotional service, in Lord Krishna and in the spiritual master makes one highly elevated in the activities of devotional service. In the Narasimha Purana, it is stated, if a person has completely engaged his mind, body, and activities in the service of the Supreme Godhead, but externally he is found to be engaged in some abominable activities, these abominable activities will surely be very quickly vanquished by the influence of his staunch devotional force. The example is given that on the full moon, there are some spots that may appear to be pockmarks. Still, the illumination spread by the full moon cannot be checked. Similarly, a little fault in the midst of volumes of devotional service is not at all to be counted as a fault. Attachment for Krishna is transcendental bliss. Amid unlimited volumes of transcendental bliss, a spot of some material defect cannot act in any way. Prabhu, yours is muted. Yes.
This is a person who sees the pure devotee, not the pure devotee thinking of himself. Have volumes of devotion to Krishna, has two faults, then it's okay. You can see the perspective is very, very important here. I'll give an example. Coming back to somebody was mentioning, Maharaj Bharat, he was on the level of Bhava, that is true. Now, if a person who has not seen him and the austerities that he performed and the internal realization that he had, you will see, I didn't mean to offend you, Bharat Maharaj, so please forgive me. You will see a person who is just walking in the forest, comes across Bharat Maharaj, he will say, this is a hippie playing with a deer. It looks like that from the perspective of a very fresh person who actually is seeing Bharat Maharaj for the first time, or who doesn't have that vision to see another pure devotee. So it's very important that one doesn't offend. This fellow is a useless fellow. He's just a hippie playing with a deer. He's an advanced devotee. It's a very severe offense. Even if that person is on the bhava, another fellow bhavite in the same forest looking at Bharat Maharaj, he will fall down because he's criticizing Bharat Maharaj at that position where he could be playing with a deer. And it is mentioned really in Bhagavatam that his consciousness at that point was absorbed in a deer. He was like, literally, he would be like this, doing his puja and take it out. And then on high, he's looking, where is the deer? A person would see that this fellow is a fake fellow. No, he's a genuine person. But you can see how, even on the level of bhava, the traces, the way to look at it is that in the midst of a Pacific Ocean, if a ship, huge ship, which is like an oil tanker ship that transports oils, millions of gallons of oils is transported, but instead of oil, it is, say, ink, biodegradable ink, for the sake of environmental people, to give them shanti. It's a biodegradable ink, which is food for the fishes. If it releases the whole tanker of that ink into the midst of a Pacific Ocean, there will be some few black marks here and there for 1 or 2 days, and it's completely gone. You can't even see it. So for those who are on the bhava, there is still the possibility of fall down. But as someone mentioned, on the prema, there is no fall down. Once you reach the level of prema, there's no question fall down. And then Srila Rupa Goswami says one should be careful about, thinking otherwise of people who are in the bhava. The other example that comes to my mind from Chaitanya Charitamrita is that, Murari Gupta, he said to Gadadhar Pandit, who was an elevated personality, who was a devotee right from the childhood, I want to take you to meet you, a very advanced devotee, and you will be very happy in that company. And they go to the house of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And the scene was such. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he was lying on a bedstead, very nice bedstead. He had, those bedsteads were made of pure silk, and then the pillows were made of pure silk. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was wearing most gorgeous, opulent clothes that you can find, designer clothes, very expensive. It seems that his hair had the finest of the oils, and it was very combed very nicely, looking really nice. And around him were high quality what's that, soap and other things that you use after eating. Mouth refresheners is the word for it. High quality mouth refresheners. And they were in a very, very high quality, very expensive containers. And there were servants fanning him with finest silk cloths. And Gadadhar Pandit said, okay, you brought me to see what? A pure exalted soul. And he didn't say anything at that point. He had his doubts in his mind. Maybe my friend Murari Gupta is mistaken. He asked me to come and see an exalted soul, but here I see a person who is accustomed to a very luxurious way of life. And he seems to be somewhat of a sense enjoyer, if I might. I think he has made a mistake to bringing me here. Murari Gupta reads the mind of Gadadhar Pandit. And then when he sees what is going on in Gadadhar Pandit's mind, he belts out a verse from Bhagavatam. And this is, for those who are keeping track, it's 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, 23rd verse, which is sung by Uddhava. It's like, Aho bakeyam stanakala kutam jigam sayadapapaya tapya sadhi Levegatam truchitam tatonyam kamba dayalum sharanam gajena. And the essence is that how great is Krishna, or where should I take shelter of a more merciful and exalted personality than Krishna. Even when Putana came, smeared with her breast with deadly poison with the intention of killing him, he gave the position as his mother. If he's so merciful even to those who come to kill him, then, and then when Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he hears this verse, he goes into a fit of ecstasy. His symptoms of love of God become so strong that he starts ripping out his clothes, and then he's just wildly thrashing about in pure unjoyed ecstasy. And then he takes those pots and he starts just flaying them around and throwing them around. And then he goes into such peace of ecstasy that all his men that are servants around him try to pin him down to control him. But he just goes every which way, and he goes into such sublime ecstasy. So this is another word where, appearances might not be what they seem. And to know one's advancement, it's not an easy thing. The only way where one can know externally is two things you cannot fake is your steadiness in devotional service, which is that, week after week, month after month, year after year. And that person is just, he or she is doing steadily their service. And, the second thing is their taste for, for hearing and talking about the scriptures. Any other questions? I think I'll not take more questions. I'll complete the last chapter. The last chapter I will give in a nutshell, but then I will leave with the definition of prema, I think, which is important. And I'll also give the qualities of prema, which is equally important. And then we can take it from there. 23. I will ask, I'll volunteer. If is there nobody else to speak, then I'll volunteer someone.
No one is there next, Prabhu.
Okay, then you know what?
I can read.
Prabhu, I can.
Oh, okay. So Ulysses, you can do, and then next is Tarun. So
Okay, Hare Krishna. Devotional service in pure love of God. When one's desire to love Krishna in one's particular relationship becomes intensified, this is known as pure love of Godhead. In the beginning, a devotee is engaged in the regulative principles of devotional service by the order of his spiritual master. When one thereby becomes completely purified of all material contamination, there develops an attachment and taste for devotional service. This taste and attachment, when gradually intensified in the course of time, becomes love. The word love can actually be applied only in relationship with the personality of Godhead. In the material world, love is not applicable at all. What goes on under the name of love in the material world is nothing but lust. There is a gulf of difference between love and lust, like the difference between gold and iron. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is clearly stated that when lust is completely transferred to the Supreme Godhead and the concept of kinship is completely reposed in Him, such is accepted as pure love of God by great authorities like Bhishma, Prahlad, Uddhava, and Narada. Great authorities like Bhishma have explained that love of Godhead means completely giving up all so-called love and for any other person. According to Bhishma, love means reposing one's affection completely upon one person, withdrawing all affinities for any other person. This pure love can be transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead under two conditions: out of ecstasy and out of the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself.
thank you. I just wanted to add one thing. Just hating somebody is not again love. For example, after hearing this, the wife may go to husband and say, I hate you. I have no love for you because love is only for Krishna, and it's nothing going to work. Let's divorce. That's not the point here. The point here is it comes naturally, and when it comes naturally, then you will realize that it's not that there is no genuine love between husband and wife in this world, say for example, but it is just ultimately it's going to, even if it exists, then the time is going to end it. And when the love for Krishna is something that will survive time, because the jiva is transcendental to the time, and so is Krishna transcendental to the time, at least. So that's the whole purpose, not to create some sort of hate. Everything else is lust and everything, only love is great. And prematurely you can jump into that, but that's neither advisable nor it's desirable, because you need to purify the heart through the process of bhakti and through going through its natural paces to come to that stage. Reading just and then jumping, trying to, again, I'm just warning as a caution, when we get into these esoteric subject matters which are mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you tend to have some wishful thinking. Oh, I wish I could jump into that stage, without worrying so much or going through the paces. While that expectation should always be there, saying I should receive the mercy of Krishna, but then one does one's due sadhana as well. Fair? Okay, let's read some more and then give the definition of all right. Well, should I volunteer someone?
Divyangi Mataji is next, Prabhu.
Divyangi, okay. So this is the definition of love according to Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Samyanma Shrina Svanto, sorry, Samyanma Shrina Tasvanto, Mamatpati Shayanti, sorry, Mamatvati Shayankitaha, Bhava Eva Sasandratma, Budai Prema Nigatyate. When that bhava softens the heart completely, becomes endowed with a great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord, and becomes very much condensed and intensified. It is called prema, love of Godhead, by learned scholars. So the difference between bhava and prema is that bhava is the beginning or the preliminary ray of love of God, and the symptoms are, tears and shivering, and that is occasionally. At that time, God is not mine. In prema, the mamatva increases. My Lord, my Krishna. The my becomes really pronounced, and we talk of Krishna in terms of my, based on my relationship with Krishna. So Nanda Maharaj or Mother Yashoda would say, he's my son. My son will not be able to survive if I don't feed him, will say Mother Yashoda. Or my son will bring my shoes, for example, Nanda Maharaj might say. So that my becomes really pronounced when love of Godhead becomes. And the other characteristics of love of Godhead is that every single thought that crosses the mind is nothing but Krishna. In prema, the love is so condensed, it's like a black hole. That's the word I can use, and scientists and young audiences can correct me. Black hole, any light goes through the black hole, it doesn't reflect back. You can just absorb it. So it's so condensed, then that is the thing. And love of God, it comes from two ways. One is, again, when bhava becomes mature, it becomes prema, or it's one route. The second route is by mercy of Krishna. So those are the two routes of bhava that are mentioned here. So let me share the screen, and we can read through the rest of the chapter. The reason I say that is, I'll give the things under two conditions: out of ecstasy and out of causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord himself. Ecstasy is mentioned here, which is bhava. So Srila Prabhupada translates ecstasy as bhava and prema as love of Godhead. And either you get it through bhava or you get it through God's extraordinary mercy. And there are examples that are given here. And on the closing note, Srila Rupa Goswami says that if you really want to get into the nuances and the dynamics of love, then please read Bhagavatamrita, which is Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami. And he ends the first part of the first division or the part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by offering his obeisances to Krishna and to Sanatana Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. So that, in a nutshell, is the ending of the fifth chapter. So, Tarun wanted to read. Sorry, Tarun.
Prabhu, Divyangi Mataji is also there.
Okay, you know what? Because they would like to read, we can just.
Prabhu, I am okay. We'll read.
Thank you, Tarunji. And because we have 11 more minutes, I just wanted to, first of all, thank each and every one of you for being so eager and inquisitive to read Prabhupada's books. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve you. I would also beg for your forgiveness for any mistakes and shortcomings, which must be in plenty, that must have happened. And also your patience, because we did move the classes here and there, so I'm so grateful. The exam, so we have 2 more homeworks. I think 1 homework is on the way. There is 1 more on the way. We'll have exam after this. The exam date was mentioned somewhere end of September. Might not happen because we will move the exam a little bit out for the devotees so that they can take time to read. Nectar of Devotion is condensed. It's not easy. So take your time to read. And don't worry so much about the exam date right now. We can figure out as we go along. The exam will be not testing your Sanskrit, not testing your mapping skills. For example, what is the verse that was quoted by Rupa Goswami to give the 9 qualities of those who are in bhava? We don't ask that kind of things. But we'll ask the main questions. So if you see wherever you get, when you're reading, and you can say, how can one get bhava? One can get bhava through mercy of devotees or through sadhana perfection. So those kinds of things, please concentrate on. It's a gist. With that, any questions regarding the exam or any other things? There are verses for memorization. I believe that there is a recording of all the verses that were done, but we'll make double check, and then we'll send that recording as well. Any questions, any concerns? Thank you. Thank you, Ulysses.
Hare Krishna. I put the link of Prabhupada's lecture we were discussing earlier. So if
yes, I'll take a look.
I don't know how to contact you. So if you let me know how to do that.
So you sent me your phone number previously, Ulysses. I can add you to the Bhakti Shastri.
I did, yeah, last week.
Okay, you did. I'm so sorry. If you did and you're not added, then it's an error on our part. And if you don't mind sending it, right.
My honor to be in association of pure devotees.
Well, except me, everybody else is a pure devotee. So I think you are in a right place, except one. So
a quick question, Prabhu. It was a little confusing where it said the shadow and the para, like it mentioned as 2 categories, but then the explanation looked like it was the same. So I'm not sure I understood the difference.
Well,
or is it?
There is a slight difference in how in the original text it's mentioned and with what Prabhupada gave us. I am I'm not sure if the person who transcribed heard wrong, but chaya or para can mean the same sometimes. So there is the pratibhimba or reflection according to Rupa Goswami, and then there is the chaya or the shadow. Srila Prabhupada, translates para as reflection and shadow as chaya, which is correct in Sanskrit terminology. There is a little bit of, I might say, confusion, but in the exam, please use shadow and para. You will still get marks because that's what Prabhupada said. Yeah, I can go deeper. It'll take another class for me to get into what is pratibimba versus what is shadow and what are the differences and so on and so forth. But thank you for that excellent observation.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Ishwari Radha Mataji. She's there for every class. Goodness gracious. Thank you. You're on mute. Or I can't hear you. Maybe I'm on mute. No, I'm not on mute.
We can't hear Ishwari Radha Mataji.
No, we cannot hear for some reason. I have no idea. I don't know why. Yes, technology can fail at the most inconvenient of the times. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Now we are muted, Ishwari Radha Mataji. Now you can unmute. Yes. Oh, still I can't. I don't know. It's unmuted, but well, you can call me. You can call me on my phone number, and then we can put you on the speaker phone. It's 510 789 9347. Yes, I can hear you. And can everybody hear her as well?
Hare Krishna?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question.
Now we can hear, Prabhu.
Go ahead. Yeah, no.
You can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
But I think it's echoing, right?
So if I mute, then nobody can.
Yeah.
She has to mute. She has to mute Zoom.
You mute from your side. Just you
Zoom.
mute from your side. Yeah, you can speak now. On your phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear now, Mataji.
Okay. Krishna with the technology.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that I just wanted to thank you for taking your time to explain everything to us in detail. About the exam, how many questions are there going to be? Are there going to be essays? Or how much time are we going to have?
So I told one question that will come in exam. It's a freebie. So you will have a lot of marks invested in it. So please reread again and again, or listen to the first two classes of Anyavilashitashmuni. That verse will come in the exam. The explanation for it will come in the exam. Because if you know that, then your very purpose of serving ISKCON is fulfilled. If you don't know that, then if you ask what is one thing that you learned from your scriptures, it should be Anyavilashitashmuni verse. You should say, what is the goal of your life? That is the verse. If you say that, what is the best thing in life that you learned? That is one verse that you should learn. You should know what pure devotion service to Krishna means and what it is not. And what are the primary characteristics, what are the secondary characteristics. All this, I'm expecting in exam. So it will come in exam. That is one thing. Please take your time and invest and learn it properly. And so that is one freebie for sure. You should memorize that verse and you should know the explanation of that verse. And the number of questions in the exam will be maybe around 20-ish or something like that. 20 questions. Fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks. True or false questions. Multiple choices. Match the sections. I mean, there is one section on the left, another section on the right. They are all jumbled up. So you need to match them correctly. So those kind of questions will come apart from that. And verses for memorization. So that will be the exam content.
Thank you very much.
Can I hang up?
Yes, it matters.
Okay, thank you. All right, more questions, comments. We have Rohini Dulal Prabhu and then Geetamrita.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have two questions. One on the exams. Looks like the final exam is before submitting the third assignment. I was just wondering, will there be any changes to those dates or it's kind of finalized?
So as I mentioned, the date will be out. Definitely it won't be that date mostly, unless you want to be on that date and everybody is rushing. Take your time to read, and we can have a date a little later.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you. Actually, that will give some time for us to read also.
Correct, I agree.
Yeah. And
then
one more thing is about the fall down at the Bhava stage. I was wondering how would a person at the Bhava stage can commit offenses and fall down. I was just trying to understand, are there any scriptural examples for that?
You can look up Maharaj Chitraketu and he became Vritrasura. That's one stage. That is through offenses, and through material attachment is Maharaj Bharat. So two are there, right there for you, for your perusal.
Okay. So that's also, Vritrasura case is also considered a fall down.
Correct. That is more of a offense against Lord Shiva also. In fact, it's not even offense. We'll maybe when the story comes, then we can discuss it at great detail. But yeah, so those two are from the scriptural perspective.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Gitanriti?
So, Prabhuji, I had a question on the format of the quiz. So, will it be almost homeworks? Will the quiz look like that?
Most of the times, but there could be some surprises in exam that might not be there in homework. And I promise you, they will not hurt you that much.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try to keep the paper as lively as possible, if I might use the word. Thank you, Gitanrita, for joining along with Mahabharat. So thank you. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Ulysses, I didn't get your phone number yet, so I'm ready with pen and paper, ready to jot it down, or you can send it to me in the chat. I will add.
Okay, thank you. I'll write it.
Yeah, and
is there room for one more question?
Sure, the last one. Why not?
Okay. So in the I don't remember where, but I heard the concept that sometimes in the spiritual world, once a pure devotee, once someone is already in the spiritual world, that they can have a slightly stronger love for Radharani, or sometimes we see even in this world, devotees might have a stronger love for their own guru than Krishna. Is that considered acceptable?
Yes and no. When I say yes, because in the advanced stages, when you are in the transcendental relationship with Krishna, and when, for example, if in the Nitya Siddha Gopi stage or the Manjari stage, and if you belong to Radharani's camp, and you love Radharani more than Krishna, and when Krishna somehow slights Radharani, then you will be offended and you will be joining the chorus of the gopis to somehow, scold or chastise Krishna, but that's at a level that is completely in a very, very high level. So yes, technically it's possible. But on the lower level, if one tries to say, no, if you are in the Nitya Bhaddha stage or in the sadhana stage, your differences are mainly based on the bodily or mental or sensual platform rather than on the spiritual platform that you are aware of. Is that helpful a little bit? And then I love my guru so much better than Krishna. Yes, you can, as long as you say that I love my guru because by pleasing him, I'll please Krishna. Is a different thing than, I don't know Krishna, but I love my guru. It's somewhat of a illogical statement because your guru is saying you love Krishna. Why are you loving me? So you can see there are multiple ways to answer that question of yours.
Yes, I just see it practically. Sometimes devotees, because it's much easier to focus love and affection towards the guru because he's there, and Krishna is still far away. Sometimes it feels like that, and so the devotee. I've seen many times that the disciple has, of course, love for Krishna, but you can tell there's an increased affection towards the guru. So practically speaking, it is stronger.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's more of a very specific case in discussion. The moods and sentiments of Guru, the community you live in, the Guru himself or herself, whatever. I mean, that's a whole other dimension or topic. So for a generic question, I gave you a generic answer, but for the specific situation, we can have specific answers.
Hariva, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. I'm looking at, you didn't type, did you type? I didn't, okay, thank you. I got that. I got it, and that will be kind of added. That will be taken care of. Last time, I think I closed it without taking that. All right, sounds good. Done. Anything else we need to discuss? And Ishwari Rathamaji is like, can we have one more class? Wow, you guys are, you want to listen more than what I can speak. The credit goes to you and not to me. So. Well, we can. I mean, please post it in the WhatsApp group, and then I can. Why don't I go ahead and see if we have one more class? In case you push the exam out a little bit way into the future, then we can have a revision or a question and answer, or we can have a recap of the 19th chapter. That's definitely a possibility. All right. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Kripati Damati. What time is it in Malaysia right now?
It's 5:45, 5:40.
5:45. So
yeah,
it's like, so
yeah,
it started 2 hours ago, so it was 3:40.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, first of all, Prabhu, thank you so much for your classes and all. Sorry, I didn't attend some of them. My question is, comparing Bhagavad Gita and Nectar of Devotion. Bhagavad Gita, when we're studying it, it's like easy when we go chapter by chapter to focus the theme and, go through the topics. But what I'm seeing in Nectar of Devotion seems to be very wide in a way. So, that is a challenge now. How do I focus and, go through the topics? I don't, sorry if it's a very general question.
No, it is not. Actually, it's a very pertinent and important question. So there is something called, there are two books, one is written by the Govardhan Eco Village, which is Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeeth. That's available in the, that's called, let me see if I can find it. It's a small book called, it's a guide for Nectar of Devotion for the first 19 chapters. It's a study guide. So let me see. Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeeth. Let's see if we can get that. Nectar of Devotion. So this is the thing that came out. Let's see if I can. Bhakti Rasamrita Sibodhini. So this is the book. Let me see if I can. I'm going to paste this in the thing, but it's the same book. It's an Indian website of, I'm just posting it in the chat. This is one book. And then the other book is called The Waves of Devotion. Waves of Devotion. This, I don't know if it is still in print, but this is written by so I don't this is a ridiculous amount. Don't think of buying it. So these two are good guides. Oh, sorry, I sent it to one person directly. So let's do that. I send it to everyone in the meeting. There we go. This is this. And then this one as well. These two, you can take a look. And they're definitely guides for helping more. I think there is Kindle edition for Govardhan Eco Villages thing. You can download it and you can read it as well. Is that okay?
Rose, you posted the same link twice.
Oh, thank you. That's so those two are good guides. And if you need a follow-up session, we can always meet. All right. Anything else? Thank you. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. I'll see you all next time. And thank you, Krishangi Mataji, for doing this. And would you mind coming on the camera so that everybody can appreciate and give you their blessings for all the work that you did for this. So, Krishangi Mataji, there we go. She's the one who's been like, making sure that we have the broadcasting system going on, and she does so much of service in the temple. She's a mother of a teenager, and she works. She's a scientist, and she makes garlands, and she does so many services in the temple. So thank you, Krishangi Mataji.
Grateful for the opportunity to serve you, Prabhu. It's because of you I'm here. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you all soon. And good luck for the exam. Hare Krishna.
Hariva, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hariva, Ishwari Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Kripadita.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.